Hello and welcome to episode 5 of this Let's Play series. In the last episode, we kind of started out on Gleba, and I'm going to keep my description of Gleba short because the footage I have, it's not good, and the good stuff is short. So we're going to, and then we took the proceeds of what we made on Gleba, principally the stack inserters, and we took them to Vulcanus, and we stacked as much as we could, and we introduced as much quality modules as we could. And now it's kind of producing as much quality stuff as it can. All good on Vulcanus, to be honest. We came to Volgora. We did the same thing. We introduced as much quality as we could, and we upped it as much as we could. And now it's broken a little bit. That is principally why I'm here at the moment. This is where we left it the last episode. It was me kind of fiddling and trying to fix Fulgora so that it can deal with all of the stuff that we're sending it. And I repeatedly fail. Over and over and over. It's so close to the limit, but it's just above it, and I just can't seem to get it below. Anyway, but it is principally moving at the moment, so whilst it's moving, I'm going to care less about it. You know, that it is going to break some hours in the future, but we got better things to worry about. I can't really fix this. What we need to be doing is working our way towards Aquilo, but first I need to make a ship that's going to collect calcites. To start with, just for Gleba, I need a ship for Gleba. I will need the same ship again. I'll have to copy it for Novice, but that will be after we've done Aquilo. So yeah, that's what we're doing. Ship for calcites. And then we're going to bust a groove to Aquilo, you know, my favourite planet. Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so we're building a ship for calcite here. And this kind of represents a bit of an opportunity from my perspective, from a factory design perspective. Because when we can design something to achieve a single result, then we can design everything to focus on that single result. So in the previous ship designs, when we collect asteroids, I've generally had a single belt that we've dumped any kind of asteroid onto, like a sushi belt of asteroids, and then we sort that belt into the different kind of asteroid types, and then we jettison any kind of asteroids that might overflow, so that we're constantly processing these asteroids. But if we only want the ice crystals, the ice asteroids, then we kind of want a different system, and that's kind of what I'm building here. We kind of want two belts now. So we want one belt which we dump just the ice asteroids on, and we want another belt which we just dump the metallic and the carbon asteroids on. And that way the ice asteroids can back up on that conveyor belt, and we can kind of buffer a certain amount of the asteroids on the ship. And then with the sushi belt, with the iron and the carbon, we just do the same as we were doing before, essentially, with the sushi. I mean, sushi is the same. So we sort it onto the respective belts. So we've got one belt with iron and one belt with the carbon, and then we jettison, throw overboard any of the asteroids that might overflow. And that's kind of what I'm building here. You know, I've got that in the back of my mind. You know, the asteroid collection is really the first process in this chain. It's the first thing that the factory needs, but it's equally the last thing that I'm going to build, because it's kind of like the carcass that goes around the perimeter of the ship. So although it's the first thing we need, and it's kind of, I like to have in my mind what I'm designing towards, and that's what I'm aiming towards here. I want to buffer as many ice asteroids on the ship as possible. Now, this does develop a different kind of excess, because now we might end up in a situation, because, you know, we're collecting calcite, but whenever we process the ice asteroids, we get ice as well. So we might find ourselves in a situation where we've got too much ice but not enough calcite. So with this kind of system, we now need to start jettisoning any excess ice that we might have on the ship. And that's how we kind of focus in on just developing as much calcite as possible. And that's kind of the fundamentals. What I'm also trying to do is develop width. You know, we're not building a ship here to travel fast through space. If it travels slow, then it doesn't really matter all that much. In effect, if we're traveling slow, we might actually collect more asteroids, because, you know, they're not just whizzing by. The arms have a certain capacity and a certain speed. If we're going really, really fast, then they might miss a few. If we're going slow, we might not. So I want to make the ship as wide as possible. You know, that maximizes the amount of asteroids we can collect. and it maximizes the amount of time that we have to collect them at the same time. And that's the basic ship. I mean, it's also symmetrical. The more the ships I design, the more that I've realized that symmetrical is just so much easier. It's just the real easy. Sometimes, even if the factory in the middle of the ship isn't symmetrical, you can kind of get away with a symmetrical carcass, but it's just so much easier when things are symmetrical. Also, in addition, the best place that I've found to harvest ice asteroids has been between Aquilo and Gleba. So we've got lots of rocket turrets, and we're making rockets on the ship because that's where I'm going to send these. I'm going to make 2 of these, one for Novice and one for Gleba, and then I'm going to perpetually send them from Aquilo to Gleba back again, maybe with a little bit of a waiting period, like a minute or so. Like it gets to a planet and it waits for a minute or so whilst it processes some asteroids. And then it moves so it goes back and forth, collects that calcite, and then once it's got enough, it goes to the respective planet that needs that calcite, and we just start dumping it. So yeah, that's the basic calcite ship. And now that we've got that, it's time for Aquilo. Let's do some Aquilo. Now, I'm still not 100% sure how I quite feel about Aquilo. I just have memories of pain. I genuinely think the mall ship helps on this endeavour. Like, I think the pain that I remember is just sat around waiting for things to arrive, like constantly, endlessly ferrying things from Novice to here so that I can build something. And it never stops. Like even like end game. Like normally you build a mall and then you can stop ferrying materials. That doesn't happen on Aquilo. The bigger the factory gets, the more stuff we have to import. So that mall ship, even though it's like sunk a fair amount of sunk cost, like I spent a fair amount of hours building it, just for my own peace of mind and enjoyment's sake. It just means I can build so much quicker. It's so much better. Besides that, and the pain of Aquilo, it is undeniably beautiful. Like whenever I film this, I'm always keen to compile it. Like I don't. It's always done straight away because I want to see it. It's just the colours are just so lovely. But I think the pain is mostly to do with the fact that we're presented with just a really, really small island when we land here, and the ice platform really we can generate it quite easily once we've got a factory going, but in order to get enough platform to kind of justify something, I mean, I had to spend a long, long time scouring the map. I will show you the map later of all the places I had to go to collect. And I mean, we're only talking like 3,000 or 4,000 ice platform, whatever. It just, I've not built a big thing here, but in terms of Aquilo, it's big because everything is just pain. Anyway, so I'm turning it on, and I'm using the heating towers that I've got embedded in this here for power, and that's probably not really enough, to heat the base and generate enough electricity. So although we're kind of heating the base just from the moment, I add a few more later on to get things going. And then when I start looking at electricity, the heat exchangers are like increasing at 0.01 degrees a second or something. So I need some ways of kind of generating electricity. So I need more power down in this bottom right hand corner. Oh, we've got electricity now. Okay, excellent. Ice. Yeah. Once we're going, I can generate ice platform, and we got water and we got electricity. And I suppose this is the moment where the pain kind of stops. We've got things heated up now. I don't have to constantly hand insert everything. I mean, that whole heating cycle, getting things warmed up, I was constantly having to refill everything. And I know the time-lapse makes it look short, but it was a good, hour or so of me every minute or so filling 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 heating towers. Just pain. However, that pain, I would say, is mostly over now. Like, we're going. Like, that is... we got the mall ship. But the pain of the deliveries is done, and we've got heat and electricity. So, provided that those two things are maintained, you know, the heat and the electricity, the mall ship's not going anywhere, then we are going to be just fine. It's just so, our existence is so tenuous. Things can go wrong very quick. By the by, that's all the pain associated with this thing right here. We're going to start moving towards the next thing, and that's kind of why I've moved the camera over here, because we need to start thinking about the next, you know, what's the plan. I want to do quality. I need to do quality. I should be doing quality. I do want to do quality. So we're doing quality, but not yet. Like I feel like the start of the quality experience on Aquilo is when we've got enough cryo chambers to really rebuild. I mean, rebuild. You know, this is we're not. I don't anticipate rebuilding this. This is developing the ice platform and rocket fuel that powers everything. I think this might stay here in its current form forever. But the next factory that we build, the big factory, the quality factory, those cryo chambers are going. All of these processes need to be made with cryo chambers if we can, particularly with quality. You know, we've got those. The cryo chambers represent such an opportunity from a quality perspective. You know, we can get 8 modules in them, 8 quality modules at top whack. That's an enormous percentage. I mean, we currently have a maximum in the EM plants of 5. Which would give us, was it 6.4? Hold on, let me get this right. 6.2. So in an EM plant we get 31%. In a cryo chamber we would get 49.6. 50%. 50% of our outputs would be quality of some kind. Half. So when it comes to quality, these are so important. There's no point doing a quality factory without it. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. That's why I've moved the camera over here, is to start that process, is to build somewhere with that can make these cryo chambers. I'm going to have to move the rocket silo over because we're going to need some of the ingredients to make those cryo chambers. Let's just see what they are. Yeah, refined concrete. Superconductors. Blue circuit boards are the mall is making. Superconductors, I've actually, if we go for a quick recap on the other planets, I've brought in some extra conveyor belts for superconductors and holmium plate, and I've set up some dedicated rocket silos just for the superconductors and the holmium, which is what we're going to need on Aquilo. I suppose whilst we're here, quality is doing really, really well. It's working perfectly. I've upgraded the inserters. You know, I've been playing around the filters and the whatnot. But it's going really, really well. I mean, the question is still, am I going to make enough modules? You know, we're building up. I don't know. I just don't know whether this is going to be enough. I think if I'm going to come back and I'm going to build some big factory on Fulgora, and I think one of the things it's going to need to do is make the quality modules. I think that's just inevitable, and maybe that's a good thing. You know, we can get that. We're going to have enough modules in here. I'm still building up these 3 dots. We're going to have enough modules to get things going at a pretty serious level, but those top tier modules, those would be tough. And Vulcanus. I mean, last time I checked on Vulcanus, it was struggling a little bit, mainly because it's got too much 4-dot stuff in here. It seems to have recovered a little bit. But I think we're now reaching that point where whatever stuff is cycling through the system is hitting that top quality level, and it's not being able to go any further. Like, it wants to get to legendary, but it can't, so everything kind of accumulates in that 4-dot region. So it'd be really nice to get some science, get that legendary unlocked. I suppose that's something else I need to do on here, you know, really. As part of this process of moving the camera, I want to make cryogenic. I want to make those cryo plants, and I want to get some science. I suppose that requires quantum processors. Now, it does have to get a certain amount serious straight away. Let's see how things go. So, if it's not clear from all of my senseless ramblings up to this point, I'm not really sure what I'm doing with regards to quality on Aquilo. It's a really difficult one to get to grips with because we either import a whole load of quality things. I mean, that's really the only choice. We really kind of forced into a place where we have to import a whole load of quality things from outside, and that gets tricky, logistically speaking. Now, what I'm building here at the moment is science. I need to get some science. I want to unlock some things. That will inevitably lead to building some rocket silos, which will transport that stuff back to Novice so we can use it. But ultimately, the things that we need for rocket silos, then the blue circuit boards and the low density structure, they need to come from the silo that we put on the base on our planet, and we only have one of these. Oh, hold on a second. Let me just slow this down a second. We only have one of these rocket silos, these cargo landing bays. So where we put it and how we use it, particularly with regards to the rocket silos, is important because all of the stuff, apart from the rocket fuel, is imported from space. So the silo, I've plonked the silo down here at this moment in time with the intention of just building the rocket silo so we can transport that science to Novice. And I start to get into my head, what are we doing with quality? Because if we're importing quality ingredients, then the cargo bay is absolutely fundamental in how we get all of those things onto this planet. At this moment in time, I think we need 7 things imported from elsewhere in the galaxy, solar system, whatever. Holmium, supercapacitors, the tungsten triangles, the tungsten beams, stone, reinforced concrete, that's 6, carbon fiber, 7. And if we're doing quality with all of those things, then we need to exit those from this cargo bay as well, and that would be more things. Let's say we need the same again, so it would be 14 things. So I have one belt with 1 dot things on it, and then I have another belt with all of the sushi chaos quality stuff, 2, 3, 4, and 5 dot. So I'd need 2 belts for each thing. That would mean 14 belts that need to exit the cargo bay just for the mall things that we need to build, which are the fusion reactor, the turbine, the railgun, and these cryo chambers, and the blue circuit boards and low density structure that we need for the rocket silos. And at this moment in time, I've built a thing, and it was really to do with the rocket silos, and then I kind of got into this quality loop, and I was like, well, what am I doing with regards to quality on Aquilo? Let's run it down, because science is the ultimate goal. That's why we want to do quality we want to do science quality everywhere. But I'm not currently doing science quality anywhere at the moment at all. I've got a base that's making the base level of things that I need, and that is just normal 1 dot science. These early levels of tech that I'm still researching, the upgrades and stuff, it doesn't really need much, it just needs some. And I've got enough for some. So if we're not doing quality science, then we don't need to worry about quality ice. And to be honest, the quality ice is the thing that I worry about most on Aquilo with regards to quality, because we're producing so goddamn much of this ice. Even stacked, it's a big problem. And if you want to try and insert quality into that mess, it becomes a whole other thing. So if we're not doing the ice, which is the thing that I worry about with science, with the base, then we're only really doing the mall items, because we're not doing science. And all of the mall items require things from everywhere else, those 7 items that I just mentioned. So the only things that we're making with regards to quality are things that we have to import all of the ingredients. And I'm not ready for quality ingredients on Aquilo yet. That's going to come. So I suppose to get round to the point, it's that I decided that the quality that I'm going to do on Aquilo is I'm just going to bring in the 7 1 dot versions. We're going to make the units, the 4 main units that we need to make, with the maximum quality that we can, and we're going to put the outputs of those things in some boxes, and then when those boxes overfill, we're going to recycle the stuff from those boxes, and it's only that overflow that we potentially might be able to get quality from. So any quality that we generate on Aquilo, this is the final plan that I've come to, has to be kind of self-generated from the things that we already make. So that's the quality that I've decided to build. Let's get the video going again. And I've taken down the silo, and this is kind of my second attempt. So I'm using railway lines because the cargo bay exists on its own grid, separate from everything. It can only move 2 tiles one way in a direction. So it actually works out that if you put a railway line around the perimeter, it lines up exactly. So I was trying to still bring in resource. I didn't really want to faff around with the cargo bay. So I was using those railway lines to kind of line it up. Anyway, we got it down on the map, and I've got the rockets. So you've just got to assume at this point that I've now got access to legendary. I've now got access to foundations. I've now got access to the railguns and the fusion reactors. So it's just really a case of building that system that I just laid down. We've got the rocket silos here on the left. We've got a sorting mechanism in the middle. So this is going to take the outputs of the scrapped machines that we make, the quality, whatever it throws out, and that's going to put it back into the system. Again, it's going to have that system that I laid out before. One, it's going to have a belt for 1 dot, and then it's going to have another belt with the 2, 3, 4, and the 5. So I'm trying to kind of, I'm going to basically build 2 slightly different malls. I'm going to build a mall, this mall here, for 1 dot things. So this is for 1 dot cryo chambers, railguns, and the fusion stuff. And then I'm going to build another mall which deals with the 2, 3, 4, and 5 versions of these things. And then those 2 belts that I've got in the bus for each ingredient, 1 belt will go to this one, which will deliver the 1 dot ingredients. And then we'll bring in the quality things, and we'll try and generate some actual quality units. But I mean, the reason why the reason why I'm so reluctant to go, I mean, this quality approach is rubbish. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. The yield is not going to be very good. It's going to be slow. It's going to be painful, and we're basically going to be in a position where we're just going to be happy to be getting the things that we get. If it happens to give us some good things, then gravy. If it doesn't happen, if we want, we gotta go. If we want a fusion reactor, for example, we've just got to set our expectations as we can only ever use a 1.1. And if we come here and there happens to be another quality that we can use, then we bonus. But we can't ever rely on the quality. It's just, that's the process that I've built down there. What we're going to do here is the last few things, which is the foundations, which is probably one of the most important things we're going to do on Aquilo. And then we're going to upgrade our base with some proper power. I'm going to use some of the fusion generators, not the quality ones, just the normal 1 dot versions, just to get some decent power. This does relieve a lot of pressure off of the rocket fuel making system that I've got. I've actually I had 2 power plants. I've shut down one of the power plants. We still need a little bit of power because these things need a little bit of power just to generate. But not really very much. So yeah, that is Aquilo for the moment. Not probably not my best effort at quality, but it's probably the same kind of. I feel like it's the same kind of effort at quality that we've done up to now on the other planets. It's a very base level. It's not the full version. I suppose I kind of done the full version on Gleba. Alright, anyway, so that's Aquilo. Let's have a chat about where things stand right now, because a lot has been happening in the background. Alright then, you join me here on Fulgora. I've been here, there, and literally everywhere the last few hours since I recorded that last bit of the time lapse. That was like yesteryear to me now. I'm here on Fulgora primarily because I'm delivering foundations. And I think I was setting this up last night. I've just literally logged in. I'm pretty sure this is what I was doing. Must have been what I was doing. Let's have a look at Aquilo. That's where this is coming from. Lots of foundations being made here. Now, I've put in all of that time that has been spent trying to optimize more or less this one recipe. I need literally millions of these things. So getting this right, if I'm going to go and do other things for significant periods of time, I wanted to make sure that this was set up just right so that it's working like More often than not. I mean, there's a slowdown period when the ship has to go and get more stone. The stone seems to be the critical thing. I mean, we need a lot of stone. I mean, it does become critical in other things. There was a moment where it was critical on carbon fibre, and I had to go back to Kleber and fix. Yeah, so I mean, this one recipe, this is the crucial recipe now for this moment. I mean, to be honest, my kind of experimental quality system, which works, of course it works. It's just, as I said, rubbish. I've turned that off, mainly because the quantum processes that go into it need a lot of lithium, and the lithium goes here as well. So I'm really trying to focus on these foundations, because we're just going to need so many of them, and I'm importing them already, because again, trying to move and shift around 1 million foundations, that's something that takes a long time as well. So the earlier I can get that going, the better. I'm uploading them all to my mall ship, and then I've got an interrupt on here for when it's got too many foundations to go to Fulgora, drop them off, come back again, or do whatever it's doing. It does a loop. Whenever it runs out of blue circuit boards or low density structure, it starts doing a loop to collect resources to make those things. So yeah, it's just another interrupt on that system for the moment. Other than that, on Aquilo, you know, we've got the science. Science is good. Science is linked up to some dedicated rockets. We don't need much science. I mean, to be honest, at this moment in time, when it comes to novice, we are critical on other sciences, other things. Flying robot frames, for instance. I didn't build this to be optimized. I just built this to get me from A to B. It just so happens that it's lasted like from hour 40 to hour whatever it is we're on now. This needs some optimization. We'll come back to this in a moment. I've been flitting around everywhere trying to optimize this one particular recipe, you know, this foundation recipe. Now, Fulgora is probably not all that important. You know, the supercapacitors, the holmium, they're not critical. We seem to have plenty of that stuff. I mean, I've been playing around with this base long enough. I've got it humming. It's producing lots of the good stuff. Vulcanus is probably where most of the work went in. I mean, I think I've been back here like 3 or 4 times. What was it? I mean, I think I ran out of coal once and I had to build some new coal mines. I ran out of some tungsten. I had to build some more tungsten. I ran out of power subsequently, so more solar and accumulators. Oh, and some stone. I've built some rocket silos purely for the stone. This is obviously coming from all of the stone that we're throwing away from the lava processing. Yeah, this is what it's... I mean, this might not even be enough. Why are you not loading? What's wrong with you? Oh no, you're going. Maybe I've just taken delivery. Okay, so that's Vulcanus. I mean, it's mostly still humming along, doing its thing. It's just... a few systems needed some work. I've also been back to Novice a few times. Oh, it's dark. Excellent. I've been accumulating some goodies. And I've been manufacturing some spiders with a circular recycling process. You know, we've got a fair few of them. I've already sent 2 of them to Kleber. The pentapods, they've taken a liking to one particular corner of my base. So I'm trying to... what I'm trying to do... They keep attacking this corner, so I'm trying to... Oh, they've got another one. There's 2 gone now. I'm trying to finesse what it takes to keep them at bay. So I'm not actually defeating the pentas. They're over here. They're happily living. I could easily go over there with my tank or my new spiders and defeat them in a moment. But I really want to find out what it takes to prevent them from destroying my base. I mean, you can see some of the debris. You know, it is working. It just... They delete... They every attack... See, oh, here we go again. Yeah, it's these flying magoobas. It's the flying rocket ship penta things that really... Everything else is fine. I mean, once they set those things off, you can't... How do you... So, I feel like I need... This requires a continuous robo coverage. There isn't a point that I can build this... I've been trying to upgrade the weapons. I've upgraded my rocket, the rocket damage, and I'm upgrading the electric weapons to try and get this to a point where, but I don't know whether it can. A rocket, you know what? A Roboport network on Gleba at the moment would just be a freaking nightmare. I mean, it's not. I haven't even got a very good Roboport network. Full stop here. It's. I need my walls. That's what I'm missing. Once I start not doing my walls, then the whole Roboport coverage becomes a mess. Well, anyway, so what was I talking about? Oh, my spiders. Yeah, so I'm running them round. We've got a few. You know, I've got a 4-dot and I've got a legendary. So this is probably going to become my personal one. I don't know where I'm going to put it. Probably on novice. And with the intention that, you know, I mean, we've just finished Aquilo. So what I need a new plan. Like the most of this Let's Play has been to get to this point with as much quality as I can. You know, get enough of the buildings and the units and the stuff that I need set up in boxes, ready to go. And I didn't really have a plan for the next plan once I got to that end of the first plan. So, you know, I suppose I'm trying to cover bases on all of the plans. You know, I got spiders. I've sent some spiders to Gleba. They're gonna potentially repair that corner over and over again. I'm gonna have a fleet here, mainly because I want to start chipping away at these biters. I want to get my base bigger. You know, I'm still creating a lot of noise. I'm going to be making a lot of noise going forward, a lot of pollution. So I need to expand. But I also need to... I need a plan. And the plan is really only the spreadsheet. And I haven't touched the spreadsheet since I last talked about it. It's sat there waiting, you know, mainly for this moment. So in order for me to kind of get a grip on what it is that I want to do from here, it's spreadsheet time. Okay. We have spreadsheet. It's been a few days. I've been working away on my spreadsheet. It's coming together. Let's just go through the spreadsheet a little bit so we understand what's going on here. So we've got our various science. This is red science. These are all of the processes that we need for red science. These are all the buildings that we need for those processes. These are the unit bonuses for those buildings. So for something like a foundry or an EM plant, we get a 50% bonus. Then we have a column for module productivity bonuses. Then we have a column for quality percentages, and then we have a column for our tech bonus. So any research that this won't apply. This column won't apply for all of them. You know, none of these columns apply to all the processes. It'll only apply to the ones that we can research and upgrade. Then we have a blank space for where I'm going to put crafting. So how many assembly machines or EM plants that we need in order to do each of these processes. And then we have a series of quantities. So this is the amount of 1-dot science packs we're going to make. This is the amount of 2-dot, 3-dot, 4-dot, 5-dot, etc. Now you see all of these are 0. That's because our copper doesn't have any quality, but our iron plate and gears do. So at the moment we're producing quality, and that's producing and that's not being able to match up with any quality. You know, we haven't got any quality copper plate to match with our quality gears. Then we have over here, we have our utilization ratios. So this is how much copper we are making. This is how much copper we are using. This is how much iron gears we are making. This is how much iron gears we're using. And then we've got a percentage utilization ratio. Now these are based on these numbers up here. So if you imagine that this is the total amount of ore that we are mining, it's all of the ore. So all the 1-dot and all of the quality ore added together. So 45 ore per second from the copper, and then 89 from the iron. This is what Factory Planner tells me is the most efficient productive ratio for this process. Now it's not working very well because we've got quality in the gears but not in the copper. So if we remove all of the qualities, then suddenly we start looking a little bit better. Something's not quite right here. That was right. What have I been messing around with here? Anyway, that's the principle. And up until that moment where I've looked at this and it doesn't look right, I'm gonna leave that for a moment. I'll check it later. This was right. This was correct. I've checked it through Factory Planner. Red Science is working well. I don't know what's happened here. So same again with green. Green is all working okay. So this is the perfect ratio at the moment with no quality. We've got basically above 100, above 95% for all of our utilization ratios. That's more or less as good as it's going to get. I mean, there's just a certain amount of rounding errors, and you know, you put a percentage difference in here and it can make quite a big difference. So yeah, red and green are basically done. Black is finished but not checked. Purple is coming together, but I need to do my utilization ratios. Now, all of this is these are just the finished numbers that we can see in front of us. There's also a whole load of other numbers off screen. These are the things calculating all of the different quality stuff, and then we add these together. Yeah. So this is mind-blowing, genuinely, to the point where I can only do it for a few hours a day, and I have to go away and do something else, because it's just, I have to be in peak mental capacity to be able to do this kind of thing, and that doesn't, I can't do that all day. No, even I'll take a couple of hours, to be honest. So in the meantime, you know, in the background, I've been working away on some stuff in Factorio. I've been making a perimeter wall, or a series of perimeter wall segments, at least to start with. This is kind of my second attempt at a perimeter wall for Space Age. I did a perimeter wall in my last playthrough. I wasn't quite happy with it. I was trying to make this kind of modular setup where we'd have a box in the middle of each segment, and we could change what went in the box. So if we wanted some flamethrowers, then we have a specific box that we could dump in the perimeter wall that was just flamethrowers, and if we wanted something else, but the box was always just weird shaped, and because all of the weapons are different sizes. Anyway, I'm going way off topic. What I've decided to do here on this one is just do my wet dream of perimeter walls. So I've just included all of the basic weapons. Everything is in here. We got artillery, missile, rocket turrets, plasma, lasers, and normal gun turrets. All of it is in here. Oh, and flamethrowers. Yeah, it just is easy. And then once I built the wall of the segments, I obviously had to then actually construct the wall, which required a whole lot of biters, and this is what I was building the Spidertrons for. And it turns out that all of my Spidertron fleet just way overpowered. I can just melt these biter nests like they weren't even there. The only thing that's limiting me on how quickly I can defeat the biter's nests is rockets, and how many rockets I can make. And the thing on this base on Novice, it's been running for a while, and all of the iron mines are close to being depleted, and the oil pump jacks that I've set up, they're running low. So making a lot of rockets, that was tough. But all in all, we've got just a massive new perimeter wall now. I mean, I'm still kind of this is the inner one. This is where we were before. This is the new one that I've built. This is the new big one with all of the perimeter wall segments. I'm kind of leaving the little one in there for the moment, because every now and then I find a new biter's nest in this land that I've just cleared, and I don't know whether I've cleared them all or not. I've spent I don't know, I spent a good amount of time just trying to run around, just trying to uncover all the bits of land, just to make sure that I've got all of the biters. I think I've got them all, but every now and then the radar that I've got in the perimeter wall just picks one up. So I'm keeping in this kind of little wall in for the moment. I don't need any more space. I don't need to build anything big at the moment. This was just something really just to, well, I want the space. The biters were picking away at my wall, but it was also just something to pass the time. In addition to the perimeter wall segments, I've also been working on a new train system. Let's take a run over here. Now, the idea for the train network is that I want 3 train networks on top of each other. So I want a train network for iron, I want a train network for copper, and then I want another train network for all the other things, like stone and coal, oil, uranium, whatever. So that's what I'm trying. I'm just trying to. This is something I haven't tried before. I'm just trying to flesh out how it works. So we can see we've got kind of like an inner ring that scoots off. That's on like the elevated section, and then we've got an outer ring, and that's on the ground. And then we've got this central one. I think this central one's going to be my miscellaneous one, and then these two will be my iron and copper. And then I wanted to understand how they would interact. So I've taken that and I've rotated 90 degrees and I was just trying to fill in the gaps and make a big intersection for what this would probably look like where it joins together. I haven't finished it. This works. The geometry works. There's no pinch points here. I can get 2 rings, and then I can bring this one in and have an inner circle ring for these kind of miscellaneous train stations. So this is, yeah, it's a natural progression from my standard train network, I think, but a good natural progression, a big. I'm enjoying the process of overlaying these railways one on top of the other. But to be honest, those were the only things that I can really do to pass the time. You know, when my mind is a little bit blown from the spreadsheetness. So let's open up the spreadsheet again. I kind of earlier on today, I kind of was like, I want to play some Factorio. How do I make something that I can make in the game? And so I've started. This is just a setup just for blue circuit boards. Nothing else. No science. No nothing. So if you imagine, let's just imagine that I'm building a single factory block, and all it's got to do is blue circuit boards. Everything to do with blue circuit boards. So we make the plastic on site, we make the copper and the iron on site. We only deliver in the liquids, so sulfuric acid and petroleum. And I mean, it's the same basic principle as what we saw before. You know, we've got the processes, we've got the units, we've got the module bonuses. I've filled in the crafting, so this is now all of the units that we need to make the thing. So we just divide this number by the crafting speed of the unit we want to use. But it's the same basic principle. My problem is that, okay, let me just. The only way that I can use to ratio these things properly, like we've got these options up here, which is where we want to send the proportions of things that we need to send to things. Yeah. We're making a bunch of green circuit boards. How many of them do we send to the red process, and how many of them do we send to the blue process? And similar with cables, we're making a bunch of cables. How many of them do we send to the greens? How many of them do we send to the reds? And so we've got this kind of options. These are all kind of the way that we configure the spreadsheet. You know, how much ore are we bringing in? And then where are we sending that process material within the system? And then we've got all of these numbers to do with all of the modules and whatnot. So the only way that to get this to a place where I feel like it makes sense is to remove all of the quality and run it through Factory Planner and get all of my utilization ratios over here to 100%. And then introduce quality and see what happens. So let's just go back to that original point. Let's remove all of the quality. See, no quality ingredients. All of these are 0. But all of these are like 90, 95%. These are the happy place that we need to be. Okay? But if I then reintroduce all those quality modules... So I've changed nothing else but introduced quality modules. Then all of our utilization ratios suddenly cock up, and this is predictable. Like this is kind of the reason why I want the spreadsheet in the first place. I want to be able to understand, you know, what happens when we change these numbers, when we put different modules, when we, you know, what happens with the flow of stuff, because I can't observe it from a factory. It's just way too complicated. But you know, we got 20% here for our green circuit boards. What numbers do I need to change in this spreadsheet to make it so that I'm using more of the green circuit boards that I'm making? You know, if I could make a little surplus down here of all of the things. We would have hundreds and hundreds of green circuit boards surplus that we don't need. So what numbers do I need to change in here? I don't actually know the answer. Like the green circuit boards, they go into the red circuit boards and the blue circuit boards. So these two ratios up here, well, this was just one number to be honest, is actually quite important. You know, we can change this around and it will make big differences. Why is that 0? Less than 0. Oh God. I mean, there should be no circumstance where this is less than 0, really. Oh, no, that's because that's less than 0. I put more than 100 in there. What am I doing? There we go. Makes sense. All right. So, I'm just a little bit lost. That's how I feel at the moment. That's the wrong number. It was like 88. No, 12. That's better. Okay. The ultimate conclusion, the thing that I'm coming round to, is that from the maths perspective, it is better to do all of this with productivity modules and not quality modules. Multiple people have told me this. Multiple clever people that I doubt would be wrong have told me this, and I've kind of I'm pursuing this quality just as this whole quality approach, just bullheadedness. Me just going, no, I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do it anyway because I just want to do it. I've been ignoring all of that, but not only do I think that the quality science approach is less productive than the productivity module approach, but also is less productive because the ratios, getting all of this stuff to be fully utilized, there's a lot of loss in the system. So it's less productive because the ratios aren't right. And I can play around with these numbers. I've played around with a lot of these numbers. I've changed them to quite drastically different degrees and nothing has happened. And then I've changed one number by 1 or 2% and it's made a huge difference. Like it's actually completely impossible to pin down what number it is I need to change to improve these things. So what am I doing? Because if I continue with this quality approach, then I'm basically accepting a double productivity loss. You know, I'm losing out because I'm not doing productivity modules, and I'm going to be losing out because I don't think it's going to be possible to get the maths to line up in just the right sweet spot in the way that I was, you know, maybe hoping. But I mean, we're doing a Chasing Quality series, and I've not only been talking about quality science for a long time, but I've been building plans in my head for what that factory looks like. And I can't just pivot to a productivity approach that just feels boring. Like, I would be bored because I'm not doing the thing that I want to do. So, I'm going to go away, I'm going to sleep on it. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to chase the chaos. I'm going to build some suboptimal factory that doesn't fully utilize all of the things that it makes. And this is going to be true for every block of the factory that I make. And then I'm going to have to collect up all of these scraps, all of these surpluses, and I'm going to have to redistribute them around to the other places in the factory which are in deficit. So, you know, some places we're going to have too many greens, some places we're not going to have enough of them. And then from there, we're just doing standard full Monty, I suppose. We're scrapping, overflow, upcycling. I think we're just going to embrace the chaos. Embrace the chaos. I mean, so from here, I'm probably going to start trying to build a factory. Once I might play around with this a little bit more, maybe try and nail down the numbers a little bit better. But I'm going to try and start building this more because it's like a standard block. You know, I'm going to need a blue circuit board factory on Novice. I'm going to need one on Gleba. I'm going to need one on Vulcanus. And they're all, I mean, the Gleba and Novice are going to be identical, Vulcanus is going to be mildly different because we're processing lava and not ore. But it's basically the same factory from there. As long as we produce the same basic amount of molten iron, it will do the same job. So I'm going to build a blue circuit board factory based on this spreadsheet. When I'm not in the mood for finishing off or error checking this thing, I worry about errors and mistakes in here. There's so many numbers. All right, so let's start embracing the chaos, I guess. Yeah. Let's get on with it. I'm ready to build. So I went away. I slept on it, and the plan that I had talked about is not going to be the plan. The blue circuit board factory is something that would be useful. And it might be something that I come back to in the future, because I will definitely need something like that. But I don't think it's the right approach. Well, I just see problems with that approach. Like, what worries me, what I worried about while I was lying in bed last night, or a few nights ago, whenever it was what happened when I did this same approach on Vulcanus. Like, imagine we've got a huge factory. I go away and I work out all of the sciences, all of the demands that I have on the factory, all of the, say, blue circuit. We're going to stick with blue circuit boards as a good example. I work out all of the sciences that I'm going to do on a planet, and then I work out a total number of blue circuit boards, and then I build a factory which just produces that amount of blue circuit boards. And then everywhere in the factory that uses those blue circuit boards then has to route, if we scrap those items, we have to route that blue circuit boards back to it. So if we're doing a big factory, then the distances involved become big, because we're doing big lumps of factory in one place at a time. So the flows become big, the bus becomes enormous, it becomes a whole big thing all on its own. And the factory I built on Vulcanus was good. It was a good learning experience. A lot of things that I did were wrong. And only by doing it did I understand how and why. So anyway, I'm going right round, because what we're actually doing here at the moment, I'm waffling through all of the things that we can see on the screen, is I'm building a factory, one factory for each science. And then all of the interrelated flows that need to happen as a result of these utilization ratios being bad, we're going to have all this surplus material. It just gets distributed between inside that one factory that deals with that one science. And that way, the belts that they stay close together, the processes stay close together. The bus is going to be big, but it's quality, it's full Monty, and it's going to require a big bus. That's just the way that it goes. But if we can confine it within a small, factory, then those flows get a whole lot easier, and I don't have to route them everywhere through the factory. Because ultimately, if we're making one big factory that does everything, then I have to deal with all of the surpluses going through all of the bottlenecks. And honestly, I don't. The thing is, from a productivity approach, dealing with those utilization ratios, that's what we want. We want a big factory, as many systems linked together as possible, because that way we distribute, we get these, we fill in these gaps. We have deficits in some places, we have surpluses in others. And by building a big factory which distributes everything to everywhere, we are able to fill those gaps. But the system that's required to do that is just so unmanageable that, at the moment we start talking about anything at scale, it just becomes impossible. So the new plan is one factory per science. I'm going to try and build it in such a way that they are, sit within a same kind of footprint, so we can, if we want to, start tiling them together. The block sizes hopefully will be the same size, and we can start just, if we need another block, blomp, we just block one down. So the factory I'm building here is the most complicated of all the sciences, because if the factory is determining the fundamental size of the factory, then I need to know what's the biggest factory that I need. What's the most complicated one that I need that's going to determine everything else, and that is yellow science. It is devious. Sat here now, having built what I've built, just... Oh. The philosophy, the principle is as follows. If you imagine we've got a square, cut that square into 4 quadrants. So I just design a quadrant, and then I flip that quadrant, and I flip them again. And we're at this moment in time, we're just building the kind of the top right and the top left. The middle point will be where all the assembly machines are, which make the science packs. And then once we've got all of that down, then we'll just flip everything and have the same factory again. All of the belts are none of the belts are going to intermingle between, you know, they are, I mean, to be honest, it's two separate factories joined together to make one factory that makes the science. That's the plan. And then once I've got the fundamental idea of, you know, how big is this factory, then I can start thinking about other sciences. I suppose we've built a whole lot of stuff. I'll run around the factory a bit later and kind of show what's going on a bit better than that can be shown in the time lapse. What we've got here is, blue circuit boards in the middle, plastic top right, steel in the bottom right. That's a conversation. And then batteries. I'm pretty sure I moved batteries and I put something else there. I can't remember. And then in the middle between the two, we've got a place to deal with our overflow of steel into steel boxes. And then we scrap the steel boxes to upcycle it. Now, you might notice that all of those things they're dealing with the steel are furnaces. Now, this is a whole conversation. You know, they're not foundries. So... In dealing with yellow science, it has kind of revealed some cracks in the potential quality approach. Because in my mind, quality is a philosophy. We want to maximize the number of steps in a process. So it's not just about maximizing the steps, it's about recycling and upcycling everything else. But for this particular argument, it's about maximizing the number of steps. So for steel, if we make a whole load of iron from molten iron, iron plate from molten iron, then we turn that iron plate into steel plate in a furnace, then we add an extra step to the process. If we just immediately make steel from molten iron in a foundry, then it's only one process. And so by getting steel plate through iron plate, we add an extra process to the chain, and we increase the amount of productivity, amount of quality that we can extract from the system. But this approach it falls down with this particular recipe that I'm building right here, because low density structure is so low density structure. We should probably be making it in a foundry. We should, you know, the 50% bonus we get from making it in a foundry, it probably overwhelms the benefit of doing this full quality approach. Because, you know, I've just built a whole lot of assembly machines for low density structure. I'm not making low density structure in foundries, and it's because I'm adhering to this philosophy, which is that introducing as many steps as possible. Now, the reason why it kind of falls down with low density structure is because it's just only one ingredient when we use molten. It's molten. It's plastic. So our quality is entirely determined by that one ingredient, which makes things a whole different kettle of fish. You know, I'm now having, with the way that I've done it with these assembly machines, I'm now having to juggle multiple ingredients, and the ratios between those multiple ingredients aren't going to be the same as we've just seen on the spreadsheet. So I'm introducing a whole load of new problems as a result of doing it in assembly machines. But it's about the philosophy. It's all about the philosophy, and so that particular crack, low density structure, I've just gone, we're doing the philosophy, and I'm going to ignore all of the productivity. You know, if we're ignoring productivity modules, then low density structure gets made in assembly machines. I feel like a crazy person for doing it. Okay, let's have a run around the factory to see how things stand. So, welcome to Yellow Science, or at least the place where the ingredients for Yellow Science are going to be routed to. You know, we've got flying robot frames, blue circuit boards, and low density structure. I'm about to start building the assembly machines that we need to turn this into the Yellow Science pack. So that's what's going to be built next. We also have a bus here, which is just for the legendary things. You know, it occurred to me whilst building this factory that it will be nice to use some of these legendary things that we're going to be making here, because this is a pretty substantial factory. There's going to be a lot of good stuff. And, you know, once again, this is just half. We're going to build another one below. It would be nice to send all of this stuff to just a mall that does only legendary things and epic things, I suppose, because throughout this kind of full Monty factory, the legendary things are loaded on half a belt, and then on the other half of the belt is loaded the 4-dot stuff. So if we're using one, we're using both, I suppose. That's no bad thing. You know, if we're building a mall for legendary things, that's nice. It saves, you know, what I'm not doing here is routing all qualities to the mall, and that saves all sorts of yeah. Anyway, so at some point we're going to join all of these flows together. I mean, to be honest, Yellow Science, it gives us a lot of the basic ingredients that we would need for a mall. You know, it's got all of the circuit boards, iron plate, copper plate, gears, low density structure, flying robot frames. I probably wouldn't have chosen that, but if we're making them, that would be nice to have some robots on demand. So yeah, this is kind of the crucial point, I guess. Let's have a run around the rest of the factory, because there's just an enormous amount going on. To be honest, I could talk about this for an hour and still not do everything that I need to talk about. So we're running right to the beginning. This is the start of the block. Train tracks. This is the system that I think I'm going to go with 4 independent railway networks instead of 3. I've had a look through the sciences and how much stone I need and how much coal I need. And so I think I kind of want an individual network for each of those as well. Anyway, so railways. Then we've got our basic iron processing. So processing the iron ore into molten, processing the molten into iron plates, processing the quality ore that we get, and then we're turning them into gears. Now, it occurred to me, sometimes it takes me a while to figure these things out, but if we go to Vulcanus, like, I'm turning all my iron plates, this isn't the right place in the factory, into iron boxes, and then I'm scrapping the iron boxes to get the quality out. But it occurred to me that why would I do this with iron boxes? Why wouldn't I do this with iron gears? Like, if we made iron gears instead of iron boxes, we could extract some of those iron gears to go to our quality factory. Like, why am I doing iron boxes? I'm missing a step here. And the subsequent conclusion that I came to was that if I started doing that, then what I'm actually doing with iron plate is the same as what I'm doing with copper plate, with this copper plate into copper cables system. So, you know, if I was doing with the copper plate system, I never directly scrap an iron plate. I only ever scrap a copper cable. And by turning every iron plate into a gear wheel if it overflows, then I'm actually doing the same thing. I don't actually have to directly scrap an iron plate. I can just send that scrap to a scrapped iron plate to gear processing, and I get an extra potential of gears, which are actually really useful, and in this factory in Vulcanus are in deficit. Like, I have actually thought about coming in here and retrofitting it. I just haven't got round to it. I've been dealing with Norris. So that's where we are now with gears. I'm now. This might seem like a lot of gears, and it's more gears than the factory needs. But it's here because I want to be able to turn every single iron plate we have here into a gear wheel if it happens to overflow. So it's probably way, way, way over the top for what I need. But that's the basic idea. You know, we're not directly scrapping the iron plate, and we're not making iron boxes. We're just making the iron gears. All good stuff. Then we have the copper plate. I mean, it's just basically the same, but more, because we need more copper plate. And then same again with the processing of the quality iron, the quality copper ore that we get from the mining drills. Then we have a second set of railways. So I'm imagining that these two are probably going to be the same system. We've got another set of railways here, and then I'm going to have the assembly machines that do the science, and then a set of railways that run down the middle. So I think this set of railways and this set of railways will be doing the iron and the copper, and then this set of railways and this set of railways will be doing stone and coal. Although we don't necessarily need stone, and we don't really need all that much coal. Anyway, I'm building the systems for it, and sometimes I like to do things that just because they're cool. Anyway, so that's copper. So then we have circuit boards. This is now a standard layout. I'm doing it more often than not. You know, we recycle the copper cables. We reintroduce the copper cables we might have got from scrapping this stuff. You know, if we produce a green circuit board, it comes out and we don't need it. Then it comes right. It goes in to get scrapped. That turns it into a copper cable. Copper cable comes out, comes back in again, gets reintroduced to the system with priority. You know, the reason why I like it is because this dimension is fixed. Like, it's the same dimension for all of these blocks, and if I need like more processing in here, more units, and not necessarily for this factory but just in general, then I can just widen the whole block and introduce more buildings. Like, this dimension stays fixed. That keeps the bus nice and regulated. Like, I don't like it when we've got lots of different shapes blocks that leaves gaps. So this is, I mean, this is this is the standard block that I've been building now. It's the same that I've done on Gleba. It's just bigger. You know, we've got 1 dot, 2 dot, 3 dot, 4 and 5 dots. And then we got that block that I was talking about earlier with the blue circuit boards, the plastic. I did keep the batteries here. This is the furnaces for the steel, and then steel boxes getting recycled. Low density structure in assembly machines. Yeah, it is what it is. And then the last block, which is electric engines, pipes, flying robot frames. We need to fill in the rest of the power. Yes. So that is everything. There is in the base that I made on my last Let's Play on Vulcanus, I had a few belts that dealt with sushi, and those sushi kind of went round the factory and distributed all of the things to different places. I'm now not doing that. I'm immediately sorting everything into different places, and then I've got specific belts here which deal with, you know, any of these belts that are going from, you know, going upwards with an item on it. That means that it's an excess item from somewhere. So if we're producing steel because we are recycling engines, then that steel comes out, gets routed through. Where are we going here? We also get steel because we're recycling low density structure. More low density structure. And then steel comes in here. Joins with the steel excess that we're making from the boxes. You know, and then it joins in with the rest of the system. Every kind of overflow item has a specific belt and a specific route, and I think this is kind of the advantage with doing just a yellow science factory, is that the amount of things I need to manage are less. You know, there are some things that I don't have to deal with, and not just the amount of things, but the throughput wise. It's a lot more manageable, a lot more easily calculatable. You know, it's just a case of, is it 1 belt or is it 2 belts? You know, I've got 2 belts of steel. Okay. Right, there is another conversation that we need to have with regards to steel and low density structure, to be honest, both of those things, and a couple of other things as well. So I've built the recipe chain in here for yellow science. These are all the things, the processes that I've made. This factory planner, it uses the current tech value that we have for our research. So at the moment, I think I've got 40% or 60% upgrade on my steel productivity. That's what this spreadsheet assumes. It does not assume the full productivity that we could get, which is potentially 300% or 400%. I don't know. It's a much, much bigger number. So I'm designing it for this, but I'm keeping in mind that potentially at some point in the future, the amount of steel that I might make might times by 2 or 3. And this is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted the overflow system with the legendary and the epic, because in my mind I know that at some point in time we're going to be making way, way, way more steel than we need, and having an outlet for overflow with, you know, legendary stuff, that's going to be really, really useful, because, you know, all of that overflow, as long as I've built the systems right, it should cycle through. Like the systems that I built, the conveyors that I've got in here should be able to deal with 2, 3, 4, maybe 2, 3 times more steel than Factory Planner has allowed for. But having an outlet for it, because it's not going to match anything else. You know, it's not going to match the number of pipes or the gears that we were using for the engines, or in low density structure maybe. You know, it's the ratios of it all going to be thrown off. So having an outlet for that stuff is just really, really useful. Now also the same applies for low density structure. To be honest, the amount of low density, timesing the amount of low density structure that we make by 2 or 3 isn't going to have all that much of a difference. You know, I'm already stacking everything. The system that I've built here is probably 4 or 5 times more than I need for the amount of throughput that we have here. So the fact that if we have to times it by 2 or 3, if we research it, that's not necessarily a problem for the low density structure. It might be a problem for the copper coming out of the scrappage. And this is the perennial issue is, you know, is copper bloody plate. It's a major, major bugbear of mine. So we are taking it way, way seriously. You know, at the end of the day, I'm an engineer and I like factors of safety. So I imagine that I've probably got a factor of safety on copper plate in this base of 2. Even including the double and the 3 times amount we might get because we got this potential tech bonus to low density structure, I reckon I still have twice as much capacity for copper plate than I need. I've specifically overdone it. Specifically, I think I've got 6 belts coming in from the copper processing, and then I've got 4 belts of potential scrap going back. Which is absurd. There's, you know, we should only ever get a quarter maximum. That is way overdone. I mean, this whole tech bonus, it also applies to blue circuit boards as well. So I've overdone green circuit boards. You know, all of the belts in here should be able to do a lot more green circuit boards, particularly coming out of here, I suppose. Should be able to do a lot more green circuit boards, and maybe I can add more if needed. I mean, I'm constantly reminded of the base that I did on Vulcanus in that last Let's Play, where I was constantly having problems with green circuit boards, copper plate, and copper cables. I mean, to be honest, copper cables, I've specifically kept it well simple. I mean, all of the copper cables are basically confined just here. You know, we only need copper cables for green and red circuit boards. That's all they're needed for. So if we happen to produce a quality copper cable, then it comes out, it comes across, it gets sorted, it tries to get reintroduced back into the system, and if it backs up, then it gets scrapped. And then it gets turned into a copper plate, and the copper plate comes out and gets reintroduced back into the system. So the copper cables are confined to basically this one block. It doesn't go outside of here. So I've overdone it. There's a way more conveyor belts in here for copper cables than I need. But because everything is close together, I know it's a big bus and it is chunky, but by keeping it all very, very close together, it means that I don't have to have a enormous copper cable recycling machine. You know, there's no copper cables in the bus. They're all confined to in here. Like, I feel, I mean, to be honest, I feel like this factory, and probably all of these factories that I build on these planets from now on, it's like the culmination of me trying so many different ways to lay this out. How do we play around with how do we achieve these different ratios of machines for different quality processes and get it within a standard kind of blockish shape. I mean, I'll be honest, I just got my head down and I built, and then I finished and I look and I think, wow, yeah, that's so fucking cool. I'm really pleased with how things are going. But, you know, the thing is, there is no real culmination. There is no moment of satisfaction. You know, we are so far away from turning this bad boy on that, I mean, to be honest, I was trying to build to that point so I could finish the episode, but I'm like, you know what? There's no culmination to this episode. What all we're going to be doing in the next episode is this, and then we might not even be able to finish this in the next episode. This is a ginormous undertaking. So there's only real one way that I can end the episode, and that is to just abrupt